I just want to make this video real quick to kind of just walk you through quickly how to write an LEQ. We have maybe looked at this in class, but if you want a little bit more practice as we kind of do more and more LEQs in class and get closer to the AP test, I made this video for you. So the prompt we'll be looking at for this LEQ is one we kind of already looked at, the most significant effect of the printing press. LEQ questions are pretty much going to follow three formats. There's going to be there's cause and effect questions, most significant cause of this, most significant effect of this, such as this prompt here. You're going to see comparison LEQs, compare this event and this event, or this person and this person, or this concept and this concept, and you'll have to give the biggest differences and why they're the most significant differences, or the biggest similarities and why they're the most significant similarities. And then finally, you're going to have the continuity and change prompts, where you must explain how did things change or stay the same over this period. So how did the idea of human rights develop and change from the Enlightenment to the French Revolution? How did the idea of working privileges change from the cottage industry into the Industrial Revolution? Or did they stay the same? So how did the belief in Europeans viewing themselves in a superior light, how did that stay the same from the industrial era into the imperial era, right? So look at and first see what kind of type of question it is and what you feel the most comfortable in asking. You also want to look at when you're looking at LEQs, if you have an option, if you're not just given one, like on a test for me, but on the actual AP test day when you're given three, look and see which LEQ prompt has a question that you're more likely to be able to answer. If you have one LEQ about the French Revolution and another about the Industrial Revolution, and you know everything about the French Revolution but nothing about the Industrial Revolution, you almost always want to write your essay on the with the LEQ about the French Revolution, the thing you're more comfortable with. All right. So let me walk you through the 6 points. There's no specific paragraph requirements. I would say at least 3 paragraphs, an introduction and 2 body paragraphs, and at a minimum. Now they must be pretty substantial paragraphs. You can't just write whatever you want. You must do specific things, which I'm going to walk you through in this video. So first paragraph is going to be exactly the same as a DBQ paragraph, which I think all of you pretty much know how to write at this point, almost all of you at least, where you have 2 points. Your first point is the contextualization point, where you set the stage. If this DBQ is on the printing press, what was going on in Europe at the time of the creation of the printing press or right before? If your LEQ is on the French Revolution, what was going on in Europe prior to the French Revolution? The feudal system, the economic mercantilist system, absolute monarchies, right? Those are things you must bring up. If you have trouble kind of bringing things up, use GeoSprite. GeoSprite's there to help you think about things that are socially happening, politically happening, religiously happening, intellectually happening, etc. in Europe. So use that as a frame of reference to help you kind of write about things that you can mention as far as what's going on in Europe prior to the event you're going to be writing about. The next point is your claim. And again, this is going to be the exact same. This also goes in your first paragraph. Your, again, context and claim go in the same paragraph, the first paragraph, so don't mess that up. Some of you are still doing that. You want to write a claim that answers the prompt. So you also want to include a line of reasoning. So you must answer the prompt and include a line of reasoning. So for example, with this prompt up here, what is the most significant effect of the printing press? You can actually just say the most significant effect of the printing press was more printing, right? Or you cannot say the most significant effect of the printing press was increased intellectualism, even though that sounds better, right? What specifically is happening? Drop some proper nouns, some things like that. So, increased literacy, or more connections with religion, or a better understanding of the world due to the age of exploration and maps being able to be printed. Now, your claim cannot be too long. It's 1 to 2 sentences, so you just want to kind of mention the topics you're going to be writing about up here, and then establish and write about them more in your body paragraphs. Again, my ideal claim that I would like to see from you is the although model, because you can set up a counterclaim which can lead you to complexity in writing about more. You can argue both sides of the coin or multiple perspectives with it as well, giving you more evidence to write about. So if you do a more complex type of writing, you're more likely to be able to write more and therefore get more points. So you can see that example here. I say one side of the coin, one effect was the increase on literacy rates. The biggest effect of the printing press was its effect on the Protestant Reformation and allowing Martin Luther to spread his beliefs in writing and things like that. Excuse me. All right, so those are the first 2 points, and it's a 6-paragraph writing essay, so you got 2 of the 6 points just from one paragraph. The third point comes from mentioning 2 historical examples in a substantial manner. So if you provide at least 2 examples to support your claim, whether it's events or people or concepts or situations or whatever, that's 2 points there. So again, things that caused the French Revolution, if you say there's the most important causes of the French Revolution were economic, and that people had unfair tax system, they didn't own a lot of land, and there were famines, all right? Each of those 3 things would be one piece of evidence, right? So it can be kind of tough to think of more than 2 things to support your claim, and you have to write about them substantially. You can't just kind of name drop them. But each thing in your line of reasoning here, if we go back, each one of these things should be a piece of evidence. So if I said connecting with religion differently, thinking more critically about the world, and spreading Enlightenment ideas, all right, each one of these would be its own body paragraph. Again, I'm assuming you have 40 minutes to write this, so I don't know if you'll have time to kind of write more than that, but hopefully you do, and if you do, that'll be a good sign for you to get 5 or 6 points. But you want to fully write and explain those pieces of evidence, and then make sure they support your claim. If you just drop in pieces of evidence that are historically accurate but don't support your claim, you're not going to get point 4. Your evidence must support your claim, and you must argue and explain how the evidence you provided supports your claim. If you just talk about the spread of printing presses, increasing people's access to books and writings, fine, that's historically accurate. You get 0.3, at least if you do that twice, right? But to make it to the 4th point, you must explain how that abundance of printed materials, books, whatever, led to an increase in literacy or an increase in the religious beliefs and things like that. So 0.3 is to get evidence to support your claim. 0.4 is to get evidence, 0.3 is to get evidence that goes along with your claim, more or less, is historically accurate. Then 0.4 is evidence to support your claim. 0.5 is another argumentation point here. So your evidence must support your claim, and it must be relevant, but it must also be in the correct, proper format. For example, you must, if your essay's prompt is asking you to write about causes and effects, then you must write about causes and effects, all right? If your prompt's asking you to compare 2 things, you must compare 2 things, which means, writing a more substantial context, because you're going to be comparing the context of 2 things and the events of 2 things, right? So you must kind of follow the proper type of argumentation, all right? So I put lots of helpful hints for you up here. Again, you're going to see 3 types of LEQ prompts: cause and effect, similarities and differences, and continuity and change over time. You want to make sure you're writing about things in the appropriate manner. How are things changing or staying the same? What are causes, what are effects, and how do causes impact things? How do effects affect things later, all right? The last point in the LEQ is complexity. The complexity point used to be more difficult to get, now it's easier. The most solid way to get complexity is to, instead of 2 pieces of evidence here, you change it to 4 and 4. So you describe 4 pieces of evidence, so you roughly have 4 body paragraphs instead of 2. And again, you must explain these in a substantial manner. You can't just name them and drop them in there. You must explain them fully, explain any corresponding details, then explain how they support your claim. If you do that, you'll get the 6th point, the complexity point. You can also do a counter argument. If you do 2 pieces of evidence to support your claim and 1 piece of evidence in a substantial manner that doesn't support your claim, but is kind of a counter to it and challenges your claim, that can be a complexity point as well. You can also do the opposite type of argumentation in your essay. If your essay asks for causes, you can give causes and effects. If your essay prompt asks for similarities, you give similarities and differences. If your essay prompt asks for changes, during the French Revolution, you can give them changes in your essay body paragraphs, but also continuities. All right. So you can also make a more complex argument there. Lastly, another solid way to get complexity is to compare this moment in time in your LEQ prompt to another time. For example, how is the French Revolution similar to the American Revolution, or the Haitian Revolution, or the Russian Revolution? How is it different? Compare this moment in time to other historical periods that you're well versed in, that you're familiar with. All right. So this is the LEQ in a nutshell. You only need 3 paragraphs. If you do an intro paragraph that has your context and claim, and then 2 solid long body paragraphs that have 2 strong pieces of evidence that you describe and use to support your claim, that can get you. And again, I'm assuming you're arguing in the correct manner. That can get you 5 out of 6 points, and that's pretty good. If you write more than that, and if you have time, I would write more than that. I would write 2 more body paragraphs to try and get complexity, and if not at least getting complexity, you're kind of giving yourself a buffer in case one of your paragraphs isn't good. You have something to fall back on, and you still get a 5 out of 6. Because if you don't really have that, then you're going to start losing some more points, and you'll go down to like a 3 or a 4 out of 6, which we don't want to see. All right. I think here, if we go forward, this one right here, this is an example of a 6 out of 6 LEQ, I believe. This is when LEQs were handwritten. They're typed, so you can have that advantage now when you're typing out your essays, your DBQs and LEQs. But here you can see the first part of an LEQ and then the end of an LEQ that is a 6 out of 6, with them getting complexity when it's more difficult. All right, so that's kind of what you should strive for. Hopefully this was helpful. But yeah, here's how you do an LEQ in a nutshell. All right, I will see you later.